The room went quiet the second she walked in. Officer Maya Carter was 7 minutes late. Not 15. Not 30. 7. But in Sergeant Daniel Reeves' world, 7 minutes was enough. He didn't ask where she'd been. Didn't look at her uniform, creased, dirt-stained at the knees. Didn't notice the faint tremor in her hands, or the dried streak of something that wasn't quite mud along her sleeve. "This department runs on discipline," he said, loud enough for the entire room. "And right now you don't have any." Maya opened her mouth. "Save it," Reeves cut in. "Turn in your badge. You're suspended pending review. No questions. No pause. No second look. Just judgment." What he didn't know was that for the last 3 hours, Maya Carter hadn't been late. She had been the only thing keeping a child alive. If you're ready for a story of silence, betrayal, hidden truth, and a moment that changes everything, then you're exactly where you need to be. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because Silent Voices brings you powerful stories where the unheard finally get their voice. Drop a fire in the comments if you believe justice always finds a way. Let's get into it. The precinct ran on routine. Same fluorescent lights. Same morning briefings. Same hierarchy that everyone understood without needing it explained. And in that hierarchy, Sergeant Daniel Reeves stood exactly where he believed he belonged, at the top of order, control, and consequences. He was the kind of man who believed systems worked when people didn't deviate from them. Schedules mattered. Protocol mattered. Appearances mattered. Especially appearances. Maya Carter didn't fit neatly into that system. She never had. At 26, she was one of the youngest officers in the unit, but her record didn't reflect inexperience. Clean reports. Strong field evaluations. Calm under pressure in situations that made others hesitate. But she wasn't loud about it. She didn't linger in the break room. Didn't laugh at the jokes that circled too close to the line. Didn't perform confidence the way some officers did to make themselves visible. She showed up. She worked. She left. And for some reason Reeves could never quite articulate, that made her harder to trust. Not because she failed, but because she didn't fit. There had been moments before. Small ones? Easy to dismiss on their own. A comment about her tone during a report. A question about whether she was fully committed to the job. A glance held just a second too long when she challenged a procedural call. Nothing you could file. Nothing you could prove. But enough to understand. That morning, as she stood in front of the room without her badge, those moments sat quietly beneath the surface of everything Reeves had just done. Around them, the other officers avoided eye contact. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others pretended to review notes that didn't need reviewing. Everyone had seen Maya walk in. They had seen the state she was in. The dirt on her boots. The exhaustion in her face. The way she didn't even try to argue. And that was the part that lingered. Because Maya Carter was not the type to stay silent without a reason. She picked up her bag slowly, movements controlled, deliberate. Reeves had already moved on, flipping to the next item on the briefing as if nothing significant had happened. Like this was routine. Like she was just another name on a list. Maya turned toward the door. Paused for half a second. Not long enough for anyone to ask a question. Just long enough for something unspoken to pass through the room. Then she walked out. And whatever had happened before she arrived that morning stayed with her. For now. The door closed behind her with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. Inside, the briefing continued. Outside, the silence followed her. Maya didn't look back. She walked down the narrow hallway past bulletin boards layered with outdated notices and commendations that rarely told the full story. Her steps were steady, but slower than usual, not hesitation, just the kind of controlled movement that comes when the body is running on something close to empty. Her locker sat at the far end. She opened it. Reached in. Paused. For a moment, her reflection stared back at her in the dull metal surface. The uniform was wrong. Not just wrinkled, strained. Darkened at the edges where fabric had pressed against wet concrete. A thin line across her forearm where skin had broken and dried without attention. Her hair pulled back hastily, uneven in a way that didn't belong to routine mornings. She closed the locker. Still no explanation. Not out loud. But the morning hadn't started in that room. It had started hours earlier. The city had been quieter then, one of those rare stretches before dawn where even the usual noise seemed to hold its breath. Maya had been finishing her patrol, engine idling low as she passed a row of buildings most people stopped noticing years ago. Boarded windows. Rusted signage. A place that existed more out of habit than purpose. She would have driven past. Most people did. But something interrupted the pattern. A sound. Not loud. Not clear. Just enough to be wrong. Maya slowed. Listened. Nothing. Then again. A faint, irregular knocking. Not rhythmic. Not intentional. Not something that belonged. She pulled over. Stepped out. The air carried that early morning cold that settles into concrete. The kind that makes every sound travel just a little farther. Might be nothing, she muttered under her breath. But she was already moving. The source wasn't obvious. She walked the perimeter once. Twice. Then she heard it again, closer this time. From inside. The building's side entrance was chained, but not secured properly. The lock hung loose, as if it had been closed for appearance more than function. Maya pushed the door open just enough to slip through. Darkness met her immediately. Not empty, just thick. Heavy with disuse. "Hello?" she called out. No response. Then, a small sound. Closer now. Not knocking. Something softer. Breathing. Maya moved toward it, step by step, guided more by instinct than sight. Her radio crackled faintly at her shoulder, then went silent again. Weak signal. She reached for it anyway. "Dispatch, I've got a possible." Static swallowed the rest. She frowned. Tried again. Nothing. And that was the moment the situation shifted. Because whatever was inside that building wasn't going to wait for a better signal. Or backup. Or a cleaner report. Maya stepped forward into the dark. Alone. The beam of her flashlight cut a narrow path through the darkness. Dust hung in the air, disturbed by movement that hadn't been there long ago. Maya followed it. Slowly at first. Then faster. The sound came again, fragile, uneven. A breath catching where it shouldn't. She turned a corner. And saw it. A small figure. Curled near the base of a wall, partially hidden behind broken furniture pushed aside like it had been cleared just enough to create space. A child. No more than 6. Bare arms wrapped tightly around themselves, eyes wide in a way that didn't match confusion, but fear that had been sitting there too long. Maya lowered the light slightly. "It's okay," she said, voice softer now. "Hey, you're okay." No response. The child flinched at the sound. Not startled. Conditioned. Maya felt it immediately, that shift that doesn't show on reports but changes everything. She crouched slowly, keeping distance. "My name's Maya," she continued. "I'm a police officer. I'm here to help, all right?" Silence. Then the smallest movement. A blink. She scanned the area quickly. No immediate signs of another person. But something wasn't right. The door behind her hadn't just been closed. It had been contained. She stepped closer. Carefully. The child's breathing was uneven. Lips dry. Hands trembling not from cold, but from something deeper. "How long have you been here?" Maya asked gently. No answer. But the question didn't matter. The answer was already written everywhere she looked. She reached for her radio again. "Dispatch, I need medical support. I have a child, possible neglect, possible confinement, location." Static. Again. Dead. Maya exhaled slowly. This wasn't standard anymore. This was isolation. And time. She looked at the child again. All right, she said quietly. We're not waiting. The exit wasn't simple. The door she entered through resisted when she tested it from the inside. Something had shifted, jammed, or blocked from the outside. She tried the handle again. Nothing. The chain scraped faintly but didn't give. Maya's jaw tightened. No backup. No signal. No clear exit. And a child who couldn't stay there. She moved back to the center of the room, scanning for anything useful. Wood panels. Loose metal. Broken framing. Improvised tools. Her training ran through options. Protocol said wait. But protocol assumed access. Assumed support. Assumed time. She looked at the child again. Then back at the door. And made the decision. Okay, she said under her breath, more to herself than anyone else. We're doing this. She wedged a metal bar into the frame, applying pressure carefully at first. The structure creaked. Shifted slightly. Not enough. She adjusted her position. Pushed harder. The sound echoed through the building, loud now, unmistakable. Risky. Necessary. Behind her, the child didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched. Waiting. Maya pulled back once more, repositioned. And drove the bar forward with everything she had. The frame cracked. Not fully. But enough. Enough to change what came next. Because from that moment on, there was no version of this where she walked away clean. And no version where she left that child behind. By the time the door finally gave way, the sound echoed down the empty block like something breaking open that had been sealed for too long. Maya didn't hesitate. She wrapped the child in her jacket, lifting them carefully, too light for their age, too still for comfort, and stepped out into the gray edge of morning. Air. Space. Movement. Stay with me, she said, voice low, steady. You're okay. You're out now. The child didn't respond. But their fingers tightened slightly against her sleeve. That was enough. She tried her radio again as she moved toward the patrol car. Dispatch, I need immediate medical, child recovered, condition critical, location. Static cracked, then dropped. Nothing. Her phone. Dead. She glanced at the time. 7:03 a.m. Shift change. Everything was about to get louder. Busier. Slower in all the wrong ways. She made the call in seconds. Hospital was closer than waiting. She placed the child gently in the passenger seat, securing them with one hand while starting the engine with the other. Hey, she said softly, just once more. Stay with me. The drive blurred. Red lights became suggestions. Lanes dissolved into urgency. The city hadn't fully woken yet, but it was waking fast. At 7:19, she pulled into the emergency entrance. Doors opened. Voices rose. Hands took over. What happened? Someone asked. Found them, Maya said, already stepping back. Inside a building, alone. No guardian. Possible confinement. How long? Maya didn't answer. Because she didn't know. And because the answer wouldn't change what mattered now. They rushed the child inside. For a moment, Maya stood there, empty space where the weight had been. Then the world returned all at once. Her radio lit up with missed calls. Dispatch finally breaking through. Unit 12 status check. Report your location immediately. She looked down at her uniform. At the time. At everything she hadn't reported. Everything she couldn't prove in a sentence. She inhaled once. Then turned back toward the car. Because she already knew what the next part would look like. And it wouldn't look like what just happened. The footage started without sound. A fixed camera angle from across the street, grainy, distant. Time stamped. 5:12 a.m. A patrol car pulling to the curb. One figure stepping out. Maya. Inside the precinct briefing room, no one spoke. Not Reeves. Not the officers who had been there that morning. They watched. 5:17. She disappears into the side entrance. The frame holds. Minutes pass. Then more. No movement. 6:02. Still nothing. A shift in posture from the officers watching now, subtle, but real. This wasn't a delay. This was time spent somewhere that didn't show. 6:41. The door bursts open. Maya reappears, carrying something. No. Someone. Small. Still. Wrapped tightly. She moves fast. Direct. No hesitation. The footage ends. Silence stays. Play the next one, someone said quietly. This time, it was body cam. The audio cracked in, uneven, distorted at first. Then clearer. It's okay, you're okay. Maya's voice. Calm. Controlled. Different from anything Reeves had heard from her before. The camera shook slightly as she moved, the beam of light catching fragments, walls, debris, the outline of a child's face pressed against her shoulder. Stay with me, just a little longer. Time stretched again. Not minutes. Hours. No backup. No second voice. Just her. Holding. Waiting. Trying. Inside the room, something shifted that couldn't be undone. Reeves leaned back slightly, eyes fixed but no longer steady. Every assumption he had made that morning, clean, immediate, certain, began to fracture under the weight of what he was seeing. Not theory. Not explanation. Proof. Unfiltered. Undeniable. The video cut to the hospital entrance. Maya handing the child over. Stepping back. No recognition. No announcement. No attempt to explain herself. Just leaving. Doing the job. And disappearing from the moment. The screen went dark. No one moved. Because now there was only one thing left in the room. The gap. Between what they thought they saw and what had actually happened. And in that gap sat a decision that couldn't be taken back. By the time Maya Carter was called back into the building, the atmosphere had changed. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But in the way rooms shift when something undeniable has settled into them. The same hallway. The same fluorescent lights. The same doors. But none of it felt the same. Inside the briefing room, conversation stopped when she entered. Not out of protocol. Out of awareness. Reeves stood at the front again, but this time, there was no immediate command waiting behind his posture. No sharp interruption. No prepared authority. Just a pause. Maya remained near the doorway, hands still, expression unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Reeves cleared his throat. The suspension, he began, voice measured now, controlled in a different way, has been rescinded. Effective immediately. He didn't look away. But he didn't step forward either. There will be a formal review of this morning's decision, he added, and of the response protocols that followed. It was precise language. Carefully structured. But what it didn't say was just as present. Maya gave a small nod. No relief. No visible reaction. Because for her, the outcome had never been about the room. Understood, she said simply. Nothing more. No explanation offered. No story told. She turned slightly, ready to leave again. Officer Carter. She stopped. Reeves hesitated, just enough to be noticeable. Then, the child. He didn't finish the sentence. Maya answered anyway. Stable, she said. That's what matters. And for the first time that day, Reeves didn't respond immediately. Because there was nothing to correct. Nothing to challenge. Only something to sit with. Maya walked out. Not dismissed this time. Not removed. Just finished. Later that afternoon, the hospital confirmed it. The child had survived. Severe dehydration. Early-stage trauma. But alive. Because someone had stayed. Because someone had chosen not to leave. And somewhere between procedure and reality. That choice had made all the difference. Some mistakes echo loudly. Others stay quiet. But the ones that matter most, are the ones that force you to see clearly what you refused to see before. Sometimes the biggest mistakes don't come from what we do, but from what we assume, from the decisions we make in seconds, about people we haven't taken the time to understand. So think about this. Have you ever judged someone too quickly? Or been judged before anyone heard your side? If this story made you stop and think, even for a moment, drop respect in the comments. Because behind every action, there's a story most people never see. And if you want more real, powerful stories like this, stories that challenge perspective and stay with you, make sure you subscribe. Because the next one might change how you see everything.